security environment is getting more volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. As such, defense and security institutions are forced to keep up with global trends seen through the dynamics of their security environment. For instance, in the Indo-Pacific region. Modernization is our primary response to these transformations. In the Asia-Pacific, this is operating in a more distinct context as countries operate under the shadows of geopolitical competition between and among major powers. This is where the multifaceted nature of military modernization comes in terms of its risks and opportunities. During the Cold War, we witnessed the intense arms race between the United States and Soviet Union. Many decades later, the fear of arms race is again rearing its ugly head as new strategic competition materializes. And while the arms race now is not as intense as before, the calculus has changed as there are now more nuclear-armed players. Nuclearization is one challenge that demands collective action to prevent proliferation and development of new ones. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons came into force in 2020. The Philippines is among those that have already ratified it. This landmark initiative strives to put an end to the proliferation of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, promote cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament. Defense modernization always entails significant amount of cost or spending. In a state like my country, with competing resources and budgetary constraints, where guns versus plowshares and bullets versus butter are legitimate concerns, defense modernization diverts or even stops government spending for social welfare and economic development. As we enter the so-called Fifth Industrial Revolution, application of technology to warfare has also become more diverse to the detriment of smaller and less developed countries. Technology has become so advanced that it is now transforming and altering the phase and pace of warfare. Case in point is the emergence of artificial intelligence and fifth-generation telecommunications technologies in defense capability development. These technologies contribute to the rise of unconventional, ambiguous, or gray zone strategies where rules of engagement are vague and below the threshold of open-arm provocation. Quantum computing technology also presents new avenues for domination. While knowledge on these technologies is still in its infancy, major powers show keen interest to explore further development. Thus, the competition for technological supremacy is fierce due to the advantage that will accrue to whoever gets there first. Quantum computing may likewise render obsolete the critical cryptographic softwares and pertinent encryption protocols that protect sensitive digital information. These new and emerging defense capabilities may be exploited not only by state, but also by non-state actors to target people and critical infrastructure at the extreme peril of small and unprepared countries. International regulation is therefore imperative on the use of cyber capabilities, artificial intelligence, quantum computing technology, and other new forms of inventions for offensive and disruptive purposes. Notwithstanding all these risks and costs, New defense capabilities present benefits that are critical in maintaining a stable regional balance. The primary goal of improving defense capabilities is deterrence. Some argue that there is a potential for hypersonic weapons to increase the deterrent capability in the entire Indo-Pacific region. We will see if that is true. Artificial intelligence and 5G technologies, on the other hand, can enhance intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems and improve command and control and cyber operations. It is also argued that cyber capabilities can be a great equalizer among states. The idea of unfeasible cyber deterrence is gaining adherence. Continuous advancement in technology also carry prospects of reducing the cost of modernization, freeing up funds for trade and investment to spur economic development, which in turn will contribute further to regional security. As happened in the past, few defense technologies and innovation could be harnessed for civilian purposes. Similarly, defense industry and technology may also strengthen bilateral and multilateral cooperation, as well as establishing new partnerships among non-traditional partners. It also has the potential to encourage public-private partnership. The Philippines is looking into innovative options to enhance technology transfer, such as co-production, counter-trade, and special foreign exchange reduction schemes. Technology and information sharing is increasingly becoming a norm in the region, especially in dealing with transboundary security issues such as terrorism, natural disasters, and maritime security issues. The joint trilateral maritime and air patrol among the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia has turned the Celebes and Sulu Seas peaceful and stable after a long period of being in a state of lawlessness. Defense modernization is also an important added benefit to a nation. In the Philippines, our major capital equipment acquisitions such as ships, air assets, and engineering equipment are also extensively used for humanitarian assistance and disaster response. The Philippines being a typhoon-prone country, these capabilities make reaction faster, yet that could save lives and properties. Modernization is not only material acquisitions. More importantly, it includes the improvement of human resources and system solutions, such as formulation of doctrines, focusing on jointness and interoperability, rationalization of the organization, education of personnel, promotion of good leadership, and skills development. The ultimate aim is the professionalization of our armed forces, competent, gender-responsive, and culture-sensitive soldiers, and defense officials who can keep up with the present and future demands of defense, both during conflicts and in peacetime. Since the dawn of history, humans have always tried to outdo each other militarily by arming themselves. This process was coined by Hans Morgenthau as the balance of power theory, which simply means that states may secure their survival by preventing any one state from gaining enough military power to dominate all others. And that's precisely the reason why we have the arms race. Morgenthau also said that the balance of power is a perennial element in human history, regardless of contemporary condition that the international system operates under. If you look back at history up to the present, we see that Morgenthau was right. Balance of power that spawns arms race has been with us and will not end. But as members of the international community with advanced communication, closer ties, and interconnected supply chains and trade, we pray we will not again sleepwalk into a general war through miscalculation, accident, or hubris. Thank you very much for listening.
Secretary Lorenzana, thank you very much. And you mentioned in your remarks cyber capabilities is potentially a great equalizer, and it allows me to make, as it were, a party political broadcast and say that the IISS has done a lot of work on measuring cyber capabilities, including in Asia and amongst Southeast Asian states. So it's better to understand what are the particular ways in which one might move in advance in cyber capacities, especially given limited funding, but the need to ensure that one has some capabilities in that area. Also interesting, I'm sure, to many parts of your audience, the reminder that you're open to co-production and technology sharing on defense industrial projects, and a reminder that, especially for your country, like the others represented here, maritime surveillance capacities are a really important component of a defense strategy. With that, could I invite the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for National Defense of Cambodia, General Tay Ban, to give his remarks. Thank you, sir.
Dr. John Chipman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me express my deepest pleasure to have the opportunity to return to the 19th Shangri-La Dialogue after the pause brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. I highly appreciate the government of Singapore for hosting this important forum while also seeking to contain COVID-19. I am also grateful to the International Institute for Strategic Studies for honoring me as a speaker on military modernization and defense capabilities. While we are not yet free from the impact of the COVID-19, the world at large seems to be encountering more and more new threats, raising concerns about a superpower rivalry, a changing world order, the slow pace of the economic growth, and armed proliferations. The rise of new strategies in the region and the recent establishment of a partnership follow from these challenges and the desire to change geopolitical conditions in the region. Indeed, resolving issues, ensuring stability, building lasting peace and harmony, and promoting prosperity for the region and the world as a whole depends on joint efforts taken with goodwill, understanding, transparency, and mutual respect. On the contrary, the formation of regional alliance to overthrow or destroy the interests of others will lead to hostility, confrontations, and even catastrophe. As technology advances and grows, it will increase the potentials of defense spending, as well as advance military modernization in terms of both human and materials capabilities. military modernizations and defense capacity building is, in fact, a requirement for every nation as they adapt to the national, regional, and global security environment. The most important goals is the righteous and just defense for our sovereignty and territorial integrity. In addition, we need modern capability to respond to common threats, including counter-terrorism, maritime security, disaster relief, participation in UN peacekeeping operations, and so on. The most important factor in these matters is the use of military capabilities in a justified and legitimate way, as well as for the common goods of mankind. Cambodia today can be considered to be enjoying peace and stability that has come with the greatest difficulty through the spirit of the national reconciliations, national unity, and the win-win policy of Samdech Aka Mahasenapadei Techo Hun Sen. We are striving to develop the nation in all fields in a step-by-step manner with an open, multi-party democracy, friendly cooperations, and brotherly relations with countries around the world. At the same time, Cambodia is achieving great success in the fight against the COVID-19 through the effective actions of the royal government, which focuses on the large-scale vaccination campaign. In this, the Royal Cambodian Armed Force have been playing an active and leading roles, especially in highly contagious areas. In addition, Cambodia would like to express its gratitude to the World Health Organization and countries that have provided vital vaccines to all Cambodians. As a nation that has suffered tragedy and devastation in the past, that have been punished by some self-interest circles, Cambodia has so far opposed the use of force and sanctions to solve problems. Samdech Techo Hun Sen, the founder of the win-win policy and an outstanding leader in establishing and defending peace in Cambodia, emphasized, we certainly cannot end the war with war. There is only one way, is to negotiate for a peaceful solution. Opponents who choose to go to war will not win. As for the use of sanction in any form to suppress anyone, Cambodia understands that it is not the right option to solve the problem. In particular, the consequences are not limited to those who are targeted by the punishment, those who try to use the sanctions, and unrelated innocent people can also adversely affect it. The ADMM and ADMM Plus are the most important platforms for dialogue and practical cooperation on security issues in the region. As the chair of the 2022 ADMM, Cambodia is firmly committed to resolving issues through peaceful, diplomatic, and legal manners, as well as respecting mutual interests in accordance with the selected themes, addressing challenges together, and solidarity for harmonized security. In this way, we want to see that ASEAN is strongly united to ensure its centrality, promoting peaceful coexistence, economic prosperity, and sustainable cooperation with partners countries around the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in early May, Cambodia officially released its Defense White Paper 2022, which represents our commitment since 1998 to actively participate in efforts to build and promote transparency and mutual confidence with countries in the region and around the world. With regard to conflicts in the region, Cambodia adheres to the position of resolving dispute with the utmost restraint and by peaceful means in accordance with the international law. As a state party to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the Chemical Weapon Convention, the Biological Weapon Convention, the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapon Free Zone, and other relevant international agreements, Cambodia strictly adheres to this principle, which are useful for maintaining peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. In addition, the 2022 Defense White Paper outlined the priority for military reform, including the expansion of the peacekeeping operation capability and modernization in several areas. I would like to take this opportunity to explain the capability development and the modernization of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces. I wish to start the modernization of Ream Naval Base, which I have discussed many times and want to reaffirm at this forum. Cambodia is a state that is independent, sovereign, and have the full right to decide its destiny as stated in the Article 53 of its constitution, which says, "The Kingdom of Cambodia shall not permit any foreign military base on its sovereign territory and shall not have its military base abroad, except under the framework of the United Nations request. The Kingdom of Cambodia reserved the right to receive foreign assistance in the form of military equipment, armaments, ammunition, and the training of its armed force and other assistance to self-defend and ensure public order and security within its territories. Unfortunately, Cambodia is constantly accused of being given an exclusive right to the foreigner to use this base. I would like to emphasize that such ground-based and problematic accusations are a complete insult to the authority and the governance of Cambodia. Once again, I would like to ensure that Cambodia is definitely the owner of Ream Naval Base, and that the development of this base is not a threat to the security of any country or region, whether near or far. We consider these allegations as an excuse to undermine Cambodia's interests. I would like to solemnly declare that the capability building of the Royal Cambodian Armed Force is not just about modernization at RIM. We will continue to increase the capability of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces, not only to ensure the protection of its sovereignty and territorial integrity, but also to successfully fulfill other tasks such as countering terrorism and transnational crimes, search and rescue, peacekeeping operations, etc. Cambodia will continue to enhance the capability of its Navy, Air Force, and air defense system so that they are capable of controlling Cambodia's maritime regions and airspace. At the same time, the Royal Cambodian Army have received a series of heavy and modern weapons to strengthen its capability in accordance with the necessary needs. Cambodia is a small country, but has a deep love of peace and has no intention of threatening any country. And Cambodia has never opposed the development of other countries' military capabilities. Our main goal is to live in peace, friendship, cooperation, brotherhood, and equality with our neighbor and countries in the region. And we only want to be able to defend ourselves and be able to participate in building regional and global peace. It is also unfair and impossible for us to be forced into a state of depravity or setback as others try to expand their military power and influence almost everywhere. I would like also to reiterate that for the capability building of the Royal Cambodian Armed Force, Cambodia is also always welcome and open to the support of friendly countries regardless of discrimination and adhere to respect of mutual interests. Finally, and once again, I would like to thank to Dr. John Chipman, the International Institute for Strategic Study, and the entire Shangri-La Dialogue for giving me such an honor and privilege. Thank you for your kind attention during my remark. Thank you.
Xin cảm ơn ngài Phó Thủ tướng và Bộ trưởng Quốc phòng. Tuyệt vời là ngài đã nhắc nhở cái khán giả trong hội trường này là Campuchia sẽ chủ trì hội nghị ADMM Cộng năm 2022. Tôi nghĩ là mọi người sẽ quan tâm rất là chặt chẽ với sự kiện này, cũng như là ngài đã nhắc nhở chúng tôi về việc cái chương trình cải cách quân đội, các hoạt động về gìn giữ hòa bình Liên Hợp Quốc, và có thể thấy là chúng ta đã trao đổi rất nhiều về hỗ trợ nhân đạo và giảm nhẹ thảm họa, và người ta là HADR, và các cái chương trình về cải cách quân đội thì Campuchia cũng tập trung rất nhiều vào nỗ lực về gìn giữ hòa bình, và tôi tin tưởng rằng cái hoạt động này sẽ được chào đón nồng nhiệt ở trong khu vực. Và một lần nữa thì cảm ơn về bài trình bày và làm rõ liên quan đến căn cứ hải quân và phù hợp với lại hiến pháp của Campuchia trong việc không cho phép sự hiện diện lâu dài của căn cứ nước ngoài.
The fact that you provided them in the text of your remarks is really helpful to this dialogue, so thank you very much to you for that. Could I now invite General Phan Van Giang, the Minister of National Defense of Vietnam, to address us. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Ministry of Defense of Singapore and the IISS for providing me with this opportunity to attend and deliver a speech at the 19th Shangri-La Dialogue. The topic of my presentation today is enhancing defense capability to safeguard the nation. Distinguished delegates, we have been witnessing a world of which is full of unpredictable changes. Non-traditional security issues are emerging more frequently and exerting more grievous consequences, requiring collective efforts of the international community to respond. At the same time, traditional security issues are still present, some of which have become more complicated and may arise in certain locations and regions. While peace, cooperation, and development have always been the common aspiration of mankind, strategic competition, conflicts of interest, and disputes over sovereignty and territory between countries will continue to occur. Therefore, bolstering national defense capability to safeguard the nation is truly an indispensable and objective demand for each and every country. Survival has always been an instinct of nature and mankind. Building and safeguarding the nation has long been a vital cause of each country and its people. On our part, as Vietnam was ravaged by decades of war to defend our nation, we fully understand the devastating consequences of conflict and violence. Thus, it is our policy to build our military and ensure sufficient defense capability to better protect our fatherland and firmly safeguard the independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and interests of our nation and people, while fulfill our noble international obligations. The Vietnam People's Army is from the people, for the people, of the people, and by the people. Having inherited and upheld the spirit of patriotism and the quintessence of military arts, and having received the support of international friends after nearly 80 years of development, the VPA, together with the Vietnamese people, has enjoyed valiant victories in the struggle for national liberation and protection. At present, the Vietnam People's Army continues to bring into full play its important role in building the whole people defense. It also serves as the vanguard in responding to many non-traditional security challenges, especially through search and rescue, disaster prevention, and response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We also send our forces to participate in and contribute to the UN peacekeeping operations and initial accomplishments, which were honored and recognized by international community. Vietnam's national defense is the whole people defense posture. It is peaceful and self-defense in nature, proactive, resolute, and persistent in preventing and repulsing the risk of war. The overarching goal of Vietnam's national defense is to firmly safeguard the independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity of the fatherland, protect Vietnam's national interests, and maintain political stability and peaceful environment for national construction and development, as well as remain committed to upholding its noble international responsibilities and obligations for the world and the region. From Vietnam's point, to strengthen defense capabilities is to enhance collective strength of the entire military forces, people, and the political system. It also encompasses bolstering the overall might derived from politics, resolve, and academic, scientific, and technology, rather than relying solely on improving military strength. We advocate strengthening defense capability not merely through the purchase, production, or modernization of weapons and equipment, but also through various other aspects. These including bolstering military and defense strength through a synergistic strategy, taking into account the demands and missions entailed in national construction and protection, combat capabilities, and the capacity of the armed forces. Strengthening defense capability is also reflected in the organization, structure, weaponry, military art, science and technique, and logistical support facilities that are regularly maintained, improved, and ceaselessly developed to meet the requirements of the people's will to safeguard the nation. And first of all, it is the utmost importance to build the Vietnam People's Army that is strong in politics and spirit, with a principle of men before arms, have high collective strength and combat capabilities, uphold absolute loyalty to the nation and people, and meet mission requirements in all military and defense situations. Second, it is necessary to build a modern military in terms of organization and structure, an army that is lean, neat, and strong, with a reasonable structure among force components, in accordance with the art of warfare, weaponry, and equipment. In addition, it is essential to develop high-quality human resources, including permanent forces, reserve forces, the militia, and self-defense forces, to promote the synergy of the all-people national defense. Third, it is necessary to research and develop Vietnam's advanced and modern military science, doctrine, and military art, in line with the national defense and military strategy, suitable for today's warfare in a technologically advanced era as today. Fourth, it is essential to develop a modern, dual-use, and self-reliant defense industry and expand international cooperation with potential partners. The Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam advocates developing the defense industry not only for military purposes, but also for the welfare of the Vietnamese people via dual-use technologies and products. This will not only meet the requirements of strengthening national defense capacity to fulfill the obligation of safeguarding the nation, but also contribute to Vietnam's socio-economic development and improve the people's living standards, in line with the instruction of President Ho Chi Minh. The Vietnam People's Army is an army ready for combat, ready for work, and ready for production. The Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam is preparing to organize the International Defense Expo at the end of this year, in the hope that partners from various countries can meet, exchange, and open up cooperation opportunities for shared development. Fifth, in order to strengthen national defense capabilities, modernizing weapons and military equipment is of great significance. However, Vietnam's consistent position is to focus only on modernizing weapons and military equipment in service of defending the fatherland and safeguarding peace. I would like to reiterate and emphasize that the national defense of Vietnam is peaceful and self-defense in nature. To enhance our capabilities to safeguard the nation, Vietnam's position is to strengthen its defense capabilities with its own internal forces, conditions, and capabilities, does not plan to join any military alliances, side with one country against another, or give any other countries permission to set up military bases or use its territory to carry out military activities against other countries. And Vietnam does not resort to the threat or use force in international relations. Vietnam is actively engaging in comprehensive and extensive international integration and striving to reinforce strategic trust with other countries. It's our aspiration to expand defense cooperation, improve the capability to defend our nation, and jointly address common security challenges on the basis of respecting each other's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and in line with the fundamental principles of international law. For mutual beneficial cooperation and shared interests of the world region and the international community, distinguished guests and delegates, throughout its history, the nation of Vietnam has ravaged by countless wars, suffering, and losses. To this very day, when the war has ended for nearly half a century, its legacy still leaves a heavy burden of our country. Vietnam fully understands the value of peace, and we are determined to preserve peace and protect the independence, freedom, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the interests of our nation and people. It is also our hope that countries and peoples in the world and the world at large can enjoy peace, freedom, prosperity, and happiness. As you all know, Vietnam has always adhered to its foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, peace, friendship, mutual beneficial cooperation, and equitable development, diversification, and multilateralization of external relations. Vietnam wishes to be a friend, a reliable partner, and an active and responsible member of the international community. Regarding the sovereignty disputes in the East Sea, also known as the South China Sea, we resolutely and firmly adhere to the principle of settling disputes and disagreements by peaceful means on the basis of respecting the independence, sovereignty, and legitimate interests of other countries. Also advocates complying with the international laws, including UNCLOS 1982, commits to strictly uphold the DOC and looks forward to building an effective and substantive COC with better legal clarity. Strengthening defense capacity without transparency can easily lead to suspicion and misunderstanding. Without such cause, it might also result in an arms race. Consequently, the strategic trust between countries declines, strategic competition increases, and the risk of confrontation persists. Traditional security becomes more complicated, and the potential for war and conflict become unpredictable. On the other hand, an arms race will inevitably consume national resources, which should be better spent for fostering socio-economic development, tackling non-traditional security threats to bring about happiness and prosperity to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, above all, peace, cooperation, and development have always been the legitimate interest and aspiration and the common desired future of countries and nations. I strongly believe that each and every one of us looks forward to a world where there is no gun or bomb sound, but only the smile on every child's face, where we all can live together in happiness and peace. For Vietnam, building and strengthening national defense capacity is for nothing but to safeguard its fatherland, to protect peace and ensure the welfare and happiness of our people. We want peace for the region and the world. To that end, we are in need of political and strategic trust, cooperation for development in the spirit of equality and mutual respect, respect for international principles, standards, and law, and respect for cooperation mechanisms and commitments. I believe that international forums like Shangri-La Dialogue offer good opportunities for us to meet and exchange. This will help deepen our mutual understanding and trust and open up new opportunities to establish relations, cooperate for mutual interests and the interests of the world and for the prosperity of each nation and people. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Minister, thank you very much for those remarks, and in particular for a few points I might just pick out. The first, your reminder that it is now an important priority not just to modernize equipment but also to modernize military doctrine, given the different types of threats that are faced. Rather like your counterparts here, you also underscored your desire to build and develop an indigenous defense industry, not just to build defense capacities, but also as a way to strengthen your civilian resistance. The IISS has done a lot of work in other regions of the world about the challenges of developing a defense industrial base, and two of them are the requirement to, of course, continue to train your human talent towards that. But a very important one is the devotion of an important percentage of one's military budget, preferably and ideally up to 20%, for research and development. And that is a marker of a country that is really pursuing a goal for its own defense industry, and one that is difficult to achieve and can only be accomplished naturally over time. And thank you again for reminding us that there is always a place for arms control in a world of competitive military strategies and procurement. With that, I'm going to open the floor for a few questions, 4 or 5, and then come back to the panel. A reminder to them that they all look at the clock, as we need to close this at about 5 minutes to 4, just before. So I invite some discipline also on behalf of those asking questions. And let me start with Chulania
្ Atanyaka from Sri Lanka. Thank you.
ខូឡានី អាតាញ៉ាកា from Sri Lanka.
អឺ
Thank you.
អឺ
Thank you.
អឺ
អ
Thank you, Chair. My question is an open one to the panelists. We see that there is an increasing competition in the undersea war domain between the great powers. As you have been discussing military modernization in your respective countries, I would like to know how you are preparing for this new development. Thank you.
Thank you. And from the US and the IISS, Aaron Connolly.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman. General Zhang, I'm curious. I understand you began your military career on Vietnam's northern border with China, and that before you assumed a national level leadership position in 2014, you served as commander of Military Region 1, also on the border with China. I wonder what lessons you took away from those experiences and how you might apply them to your position today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from Vietnam, Bích Tran.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman, and many thanks to the three ministers. So my question is for General Phan Danh Giang. So it is said that the majority of Vietnam's military equipment and weapons came from Russia. And in recent years, Vietnam has recognized the need to diversify its arms suppliers. So, after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, this need is become more urgent. So I wonder what is the plan of Vietnam to lessen its dependence on Russian arms? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from Singapore, Swee Wee.
Thank you. My question is for Minister Tay Ban. What is the nature of the arrangement with China on the base? What kind of money did China give Cambodia for the base, and what did Cambodia promise China in exchange? Thank you.
And from Cambodia, Sansan Bath Bong.
Good afternoon. I'd like to direct my question to Deputy Prime Minister Somdech Vichaysanathirbang. So Cambodia recently recruited about 400 new officers as part of its medium-range missile defense corps under the Ministry of National Defense. So my question is that part of Cambodia long-term modernization plan, or is it Cambodia respond to the deteriorating military landscape in the region? Thank you.
And from Germany, Maybrit Stunbaum. I think you may have accidentally turned off your microphone.
No, seems.
Thank you.
Yes, kids. Okay. Thank you very much for this. Also following up the question, Riem. So, Minister Bang, thank you very much for addressing this right head on, but in the spirit that General Jiang said about the openness at Changular, I was wondering, part of the modernization aspirations is also the use of dual-use technology and dual use of everything from fishery to grazing activities to ports. So when you look at Riem, you can also think about those agreements now in the Solomon Islands and other islands under discussions. You can see that there is a strive also with the Belt and Road Initiative to use ports for dual use in the future or even in the present. So I was wondering to the panelists per se, how much do that add to the dynamics in the region of insecurity or security when we have more and more ports with foreign investments, be for military, civilian use, and how would you go forward to respond to this? Is that an increase in tension? Is it a decrease in tension? What's your best response? Thank you.
Thank you. And from Australia and also the IISS, Greg Austin.
Thank you, John. My question is to General Zhang. You mentioned the proposition of strategic trust and building trust, and on the related theme of diversifying sources, I'd be interested in your view of the global landscape in cyberspace in terms of strategic trust, and where does Vietnam look to try and build partnerships in cyberspace policy for the armed forces? Thank you.
Thank you. And from the UK, James Hackett.
Thanks, John. This is a question to the Cambodian Defence Minister. I was struck in your remarks by references to transparency. Now, all three countries represented on the podium released defence white papers, which are an important aspect of defence transparency. But mistrust in the region, of course, still persists. So what other measures of defence transparency does the Minister think are needed in the region to enhance defence transparency and also build confidence? could options be exercise notifications or reciprocal base visits or inspections? I'd be interested in his ideas.
Thank you very much. Blake Hetzinger from the US.
Thank you, Dr. Chipman. And I apologize to General Taban, but I also have a question on the same subject. You did mention explicitly that the Cambodian constitution bars permanently based forces, but I would be curious to hear your views on what sort of operations would be conducted by the People's Liberation Army Navy from Ream Naval Base. And also, on the theme of transparency, if this was an issue that was discussed, as you mentioned, Cambodia holds the ASEAN and ADMM chairs. If this was something socialized with other ASEAN member states and your neighbors prior to the groundbreaking this week, and how this arrangement might affect their interests in the Gulf of Thailand and South China Sea, or thinking longer term in terms of the stalled South China Sea Code of Conduct.
Thank you very much. I think we've got quite a lot there. So just out of fairness to our speakers and out of prudence for the timing as well, could I maybe ask first the Defense Minister of Vietnam to answer the one or two questions posed to him? You've got a couple of minutes as well for your questions, and if there's anything you want to do to sum up, then Secretary Lorenzana, we'd be delighted to hear. But first, Vietnam, you can speak from your chair, and we'd be delighted to hear a couple of your responses to those questions, not least from your own national about the diversification of weapons supplies to the country.
Well, first of all, thank you for all of you who have been raising questions. I think I have received lots of questions. So first of all, I would like to say that new technologies and countries, so how we are going to deal with that, I would say countries would need to put the great interest into this. And you know that industry primed the priorities for military. I'm sure that this is in the national interest of all the countries, and it's the general principle. So secondly, when we talk about weapons, it's true to say that sources of Vietnam's weapons are from Russia and Ukraine, and also from the former Soviet Union and Socialist Union, socialist countries. But that's a long time. Remember that we have been developing our own weapons and platforms. So that's why I'm saying in my speech that please come to our exhibition, the defense industry exhibitions. Bring with you your new, weapons to protect peace and national sovereignty and integrity. So we can also study and tap it for our self-defense purposes. Now, when it comes to other issues related to this, you know that I used to be the soldiers, and gradually I developed and become the general, and now I'm here as the Minister of National Defense. What I learned from my experience, I would refer to a proverb that we can sell our brother, but we need to buy the near neighbors. So we need to think about, things in general, and let's think about how to settle the disputes and differences. In this respect, we talk with Laos, Cambodia, China. We have close relationship. We can talk with each other so that all the differences and disputes can be solved peacefully, so that we can have a peace stabilities in the border and in the both sides of the borders. If we can do this in the world, I would aspire to have a global peace. Mr. Chairman, let me have one more word, touching upon the cybersecurity topic. This is the new realm. It is so powerful. We consider it as the new domain of operation. So we have been studying, we are developing the forces, and we are ready to tapping it for both the defense and the constructions of our country. I would like to thank you so much.
Cambodia.
Thank you very much, and I am very pleased to come into this meeting, and I would like to give some clarification regarding the Ream naval base. Maybe you want to know about the issue and the transparency with regards to the use of the Ream naval base. I would like to clarify that I have given many clarification in Cambodia. We do not have a large territorial sea, but we do have territorial sea, and therefore we need the capability to protect our maritime space and maritime territorial integrity. And in order to do that, we need to have a proper naval base, and this is necessary. All of you probably do not know that in Cambodia we do not really have any major port that the ship can come in, except the port in the Sihanoukville, where the large commercial ship can come in. So basically we do not have such places, and even for the military we do not even have a proper base. And so how can we protect our maritime sovereignty if we do not have a proper base? And therefore the modernization or the development of the repair workshop, the pier, the dry dock should not be surprising. What is surprising, however, is the fact that we have grant aid, and that seems surprising for many people that we have received the grant aid from the People's Republic of China. But I think that should not be surprising. And it had been reinterpreted as a given exclusive use to China, and I would like to deny that this is not true. On the other hand, because this is under our sovereignty, we have the right to find assistance in order to build the base for our own use to protect our maritime sovereignty. So we have sought for the development of our base for a very long time, especially to repair the ships and the vessel. And it doesn't have to be the navies that have to belong to this country or that country. Any ships from any country that need emergency repair in the territorial sea can just come into our port to receive the repair. When we want to talk about the transparency, I think basically we have built this in the Cambodian sovereignty. So basically we build it based on our own needs. So I would like to clarify this again, and just like I have clarified before, there is nothing more than the enhancement of the Royal Cambodian Navy. So that we have the capability, we have the place, we have the port, we have the repair workshop. And also we would like to make the base capable of receiving large naval ship, and we have to have a little bit deeper for the sea. With regards to the next question about the recruitment of the hundreds of new officers and soldiers, I would like to clarify that for the military this is normal, because the military have to retire, and so we have to recruit more officer and soldier. And how do we manage this? How do we allocate them to what unit? I think this is the Ministry of National Defense of Cambodia to decide, and I think this is within our right to prepare that. And it's not just 400, there are even more than that. and how to use that. We will use it based on the requirement of the Ministry of National Defense of Cambodia, and I think that is normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Lorenzana, a few closing reflections.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'd like to deal on two questions that was asked a while ago. Number one is the increasing competition between major powers and how the countries are dealing with it, especially my country, the Philippines. And number two is the diversification of sources of military equipment. Number one, the increased competition of major powers and how we deal with it. We deal with it very delicately. In fact, it's like walking on a tightrope. My president said it's a slippery slope to navigate between two superpowers, considering that we are down right smack where some of the disputes or flashpoints happen in Southeast Asia. And so what our government has done, President especially, President Duterte, was to have a dialogue with Chinese leaders, and coming out to the modus vivendi in the conflicted areas. We have realized, we have accepted that in South China Sea there is conflicting claims. We believe ours is the stronger claim because of the UNCLOS and the arbitral award, while China claims that they own the place through historical thing. But at any rate, since the start of 2016, when President Duterte became president, I think there is stability in the region, in South China Sea, and we would like to remain it that way. On the diversification of sources of military equipment, gone were the days when the production of military equipment was dominated by few countries like the United States, maybe France, and Great Britain. Not anymore. There are lots of countries now doing making those equipment, and it is good for us, small countries, so that we can have a value for our money. Now, there is a problem that was put forward about interoperability. We think we can buy equipment from other countries, a mix of equipment, because interoperability, as we understand it, is this equipment can work together. And the technology on combat management system, telecommunications is already there. So there will be no problem for us to be procuring equipment from Indonesia, for instance, from India, from France, because we have bought Coast Guard ships from France, and even Japan, we get some equipment from Japan and from Korea. So that's what we think about all these things, John. Thank you.
Secretary Lorenzana, thank you very much. That's brought this plenary to a close. I want to thank the three of you for your splendid remarks and direct answers to questions, some of them challenging, but this is the purpose of the Shangri-La Dialogue, and we have done a great deal to clarify some of the issues that have been raised. I want just to add one point before we close, which is you will have noticed that during the day a number of young leaders from Southeast Asian states and others have taken the floor from all of these countries. We've had young analysts well under the age of 40. The IISS itself is keen to do what it can to strengthen the successor generation. The modernization of intellectual talent is an important purpose to which we apply ourselves, and I want to thank all of the sponsors and also our nominees for having ensured that we have more than 40 young leaders here present who've been able to engage their own national leaders in this transparent and invigorating way. Could I ask you to do two things? First, in a second, to thank all three of our speakers. They will now come and return to take up their seats in the hall, because in 3 minutes we will have the special address from President Zelensky. But thank you very much, all of you, for your presentations.